It seems that previously broken items are back on the menu inside Helldivers 2, but not all within the player base are seeing the same results, with a large enough group not seeing any change at all, leading to some back and forth that I wanted to dive into because I'm caught up in that side that's seeing nothing. If you haven't done so already, please consider hitting subscribe and ringing the notifications bell. If you're on mobile, please swipe right to hype this video. And now, let's dive into the latest with Helldivers. All right, we might as well start at the top with yesterday's update 6.1.1 because it sort of ties into some of the feedback I've been seeing from the community. Now, as many of you know, the OTF, or One True Flag, and the Pummeler SMG were both previously disabled. The flag for causing crashing when swapping weapons while planting the flag, and of course the Pummeler was having reload issues related to it using dry magazines. Arrowhead also fixed the 𝗛𝗲𝗹𝗶𝘃𝗲𝗿𝘀 title, which is the one I normally run, along with adding more fog and the distance on maps to provide more ambient light. And finally, they increased the brightness during exostorms because it could get extra dark within those missions. At least on paper, the changes are mostly positive here, outside of the wording for the fog changes, because God knows HD2 is actually a fog simulation game that also has a combat element to it, which I think is a fancy way of saying we've already got fog upon more fog in the game. Our ships get foggy sometimes after missions. There's fog underneath the maps when you get blown down under the surface of a planet. And also, if you're hosting a session, fog builds along with smoke, and it just builds and builds up in layers, never drifting up and away, and it gets to the point where you can't see anything. Telling players that they're getting yet another generous application of Helldivers Fog is probably not the best way to describe this change. However, the change that seems to have caused some head scratching is the one they made to the One True Flag, which has been disabled since the prior patch due to those crashing issues. But, in case you forgot, here's what Nicholas and Leonard said about the changes made to the flag about a week and a half ago.
The community told us many good suggestions of what to do with the flag. Yeah. Now, if you carry the flag, either in your hands or on your back, the enemies will be properly angry at you for having the audacity to bring the flag.
Which makes sense.
We'll see what people do with this. I am slightly scared of what will happen, but
yeah, they usually find some interesting stuff too.
He'll probably be fine.
So, in the patch that added that flag aggro, the change says, the One True Flag is despised by the enemies of democracy. They will attempt to target anyone waving it. Okay, so I guess that description and the changes make sense, at least from the wording there, but after all of that, it seems that some within the player base are seeing the changes while in combat, while using the flag, while others aren't. I posted this poll to the channel yesterday, and after 6,400 votes, it seems like a 2/3 issue. When asked if, as a diver, they were seeing any difference in drawing extra enemy fire and aggro, 68% of you have said yes, while there is a pretty significant 32% that says no. And of course, me being me, I've gone and tried to research this topic. I've seen your comments like this one from the Helldivers Reddit that says flag doesn't need to be in hands to pull at least some aggro, while this one shows a clip with a shield relay and a title that says flag aggro buff is goated. I also found this post on the Helldivers 2 Reddit that says One True Flag buff is a step in the right direction but seems redundant. And they go on to say, to preface this, I'm looking at this change purely from a practicality standpoint, as I know some people use it for aesthetic LARP reasons. The change to the One True Flag, being that enemies now target its wielder, seems a bit redundant given how enemies in this game behave. Listen to this next part. If we are meant to use it as a distractionary measure, it makes no sense given the effect the host has on enemies in this game. I mentioned this last Reddit post from 𝗛𝗏𝗎𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋 and I'm just going to speculate here, but maybe there's a host or latency issue with the flag that is causing that 32% of the poll results to not see any aggro difference while using the flag. I've reached out to some within the data mining side of Helldivers, and they're telling me they haven't seen any changes internally with the flag outside of a mention from one data miner that it seems to override lure mine aggro, but honestly, that's not a lot to go on. We also know that sentries and turrets piss off our enemies more than anything. And once one of those hits the planet's surface, laser beams, claws, and rocket fire is immediately peppered in their general direction. But the flag, I don't know. Because, well, there's a couple of concerns. Let's call them even red flags when it comes to changes like this being correctly implemented into the game. First off, and this is going to be me speaking about my experience while using the one true flag since it was re-enabled, I'm not seeing or feeling any difference in enemy aggression or targeting me while both using and not using the flag. They are the same, again, at least for me, which is where that final Reddit post kind of comes into the discussion. We know that when it comes to being the host of a party, things tend to work differently. Status effects, enemy spawns based on distance from the host, and for a more specific example of host-client differences, here's one for you. Try hosting versus not hosting and see how fast a charger can turn a 180 and plant you into next week. That is a night and day difference because when you are not hosting a dive, chargers will just run straight past you, dumb as a doornail, like you don't exist. But, and again, turning this discussion back to the flag, I've used it and waded into swarms of beaming in Illuminate coming down from the warp ships, running through their ranks, waving this damn flag side to side, and you know, some of the enemies shoot at me and some of them just continue to shoot at my squad mates, even when I am literally feet away from them and up in their grills. I think at this point we really need some good hard data from the in-game files, a before and after comparison of the values when it was just a flag versus the newly buffed aggro flag, because right now I'm in that camp of 32 percenters that have tried it out and don't feel like I'm seeing any difference. But on the flip side of that, and I'm going to mention this one here, like with fire and the cremator, that's a change I can immediately feel in combat. I'm melting stuff way faster than before, and targets I hit directly with the fire streams are collapsing like butter in a microwave. But again, when it comes to the flag, I'm seeing nothing. Also, and here's another red flag that I know a lot of you have, there's been the systemic issues with the truth we've seen in the past from Arrowhead. Hey, we're not going to touch the coyote. Why would we do that? To then coming clean about it on live stream about how they had touched fire damage ticks and ignition points on enemies in an attempt to tone down fire directly aimed at the coyote. We've also seen them speak about suppressors and how they seem to be in a good point, and it took the community just going nuclear, peppering them with testing proof that suppressors were making no difference versus non-suppressed weapons, which then led to them finally doing something about it, delaying the redacted regiment war bond to then deliver functioning suppressed weapons. And I mentioned those examples because some of you in your comments were bringing up those points and how Arrowhead has lied in the past, and you wouldn't be surprised if they were doing it again here with this flag aggro. And again, this is me just speaking about my personal experiences while wielding the OTF. And I'm not saying that the 68% of you that said yes on that poll are liars and or you don't know what you're talking about, but I'm just saying I can see the changes in the patch notes. I can read it there. I can see the verbiage. But when it comes to the overall feeling of being an aggro machine while using the OTF, I'm not seeing that. And yes, I've been in line of sight with huge mobs. I've tried it without sentries and turrets and not using lure mines, and the voteless chase me like exactly before, usually because I'm up close and personal with them, blasting them to pieces and pissing them off in the process. I guess my question for all my viewers out there is, what are the specifics for you when you've been using the flag and seeing this elevated aggro? Drop a comment for all the community to see. Are you hosting or are you joining other divers parties? Were there sentries and turrets or not? You know, specific things like that. Get really detailed with your comment because I'm wanting a reason to take Arrowhead at their word and believe in the changes. Who knows? Maybe there's a new or hidden field inside the game files that data miners will be able to get a hold of that will, include those data changes causing the aggro changes. But from what I'm seeing on my dives, there is no difference here, at least for me. Outside of there, I did want to mention that I received more than a few comments about how some of you missed out on the Sweeper shotgun available in the Superstore, and you were asking when it would be back in the rotation. And I wanted to let you know that devs have been made aware of that and how some alterations to the way the Superstore works are needed so that everything is in there all the time. Also, in terms of the Illuminate major order, it's, well, I guess we're doing pretty well. I mean, don't get me wrong, our campaign on Hort is well underway. We have 4.5 days to go, and according to the Helldivers app, based on our current liberation rate, we should pick it off in a little under 2 days' time. But there's the current issue of Eagle Storm raining down hell on diver parties, which, along with the Illuminate faction, even with the changes, not being as popular as the other two, and that may be a strong contributing factor to the player counts not overall being as high as they could be. But there you go. My thoughts, feedback, and concerns about the one true flag and that new aggro mechanic, which seem to be echoed by a significant part of the community. And who knows, that may change when I read someone's comment and I try out a viewer suggestion or two. And if it comes down to user error, as in me just being a dumbass, I'll be the first one posting an I was wrong video. But here's where I turn to you, my viewers. Where are you falling right now with the Illuminate Exospire missions? Are you liking them? Are you avoiding them? And how about your specific experiences and suggestions when it comes down to being an aggro machine with the one true flag? Drop a comment for all to see, and let's get a healthy discussion going. If you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell to receive my latest upload alerts. I posted something a little different to the channel this afternoon when Techland, the makers of the Dying Light franchise, gave me early access to this new hardcore restored land game mode for Dying Light the Beast. So if you can check that one out, it's up on the channel and I'd appreciate it. And finally, to my awesome and hardcore channel members, thank you so much for everything you do. Until the next one, this is 𝗛𝗲𝗹𝗶𝘃𝗲𝗿𝘀 signing off.